What if your deepest yearning to be special, to stand out, to be uniquely praised, is actually what keeps you from being free? Would you consider this desire benign, motivating, harmless? Perhaps, but beneath motivation often hides a silent trap, a trap I like to call the special self. The special self whispers, "You must be above average, you must be more successful, more attractive, more enlightened." You chase promotions, admiration, spiritual badges, all to prove you are not ordinary. But the moment you elevate yourself, you also distance yourself from others, from nature, from truth. To be special is to be separate, and separation breeds fear. Ask yourself, when you define your value through uniqueness, do you ever worry about being ordinary, about being forgotten? Because if you build your worth on being exceptional, then becoming average feels like dying. This trap has influenced nearly every culture. We have heroes, celebrities, disciples, gurus. We idolize uniqueness. Yet this idolization often arises from a misunderstanding, a deep forgetting of who and what you truly are. You see, the desire to be special assumes something very peculiar, that you, as you are not enough. That you must become something more, something bigger, shinier, more impressive, in order to deserve love, attention, or even existence itself. But think about this. A tree does not try to be a better tree than the one beside it. The ocean does not try to outshine the sky. The sun does not look at the stars and feel insecure. They simply are, fully. So, where does this human obsession with being special come from? It comes from ego. The ego lives on comparison, on measurement, on separation. It asks, how do I rank? Am I better than them? Am I the smartest, the kindest, the most spiritual, the most original? But all of this chasing is like a dog trying to catch its tail. You never arrive, you never feel safe, because someone else is always younger, richer, more beautiful, more eloquent, more something. And so long as your identity is built on being above, you will always fear falling below. Even in spirituality, this trap hides itself cleverly. You want to be the most awakened, the most peaceful, the most humble, ironically, as a way to feel superior. Look at how enlightened I am. I don't even care if I'm enlightened. The ego is very sneaky. It will wear any mask, even the mask of selflessness, if it means it gets to feel special. But what if I told you, you don't need to be special? Not because you are ordinary, but because you are beyond comparison. You are not a thing to be ranked. You are not a product. You are not a resume. You are life itself. You are the universe, peering out through human eyes. And the moment you stop trying to stand out, you begin to belong. You see, to seek specialness is to try to prove that you matter. But the truth is, you already do. In the same way a star matters, in the same way a river matters, not because of its resume, but because of its existence. You don't have to shine brighter than anyone else, you just have to shine as you. Now, this may sound like I'm asking you to be passive, to never improve, to never grow. Not at all. Grow, yes. Expand, yes. But not to be better than others. Grow to become more yourself. That's the difference. Improvement is healthy when it arises from love, the love of becoming, the joy of unfolding. But it becomes poison when it arises from shame, the belief that you are not enough unless you outshine others. And here's the paradox. When you stop trying to be special, you become free. You are no longer caught in the exhausting game of better. You are no longer editing yourself, branding yourself, performing yourself. You can breathe, you can laugh, you can love without calculation. Because the truth is, nobody is special, and that is what makes everyone sacred. There is no need to be unique in order to be worthy. Existence is not a competition. It is a symphony. And in a symphony, no instrument needs to outplay the others. Each adds its voice. Each contributes to the whole. Each note matters not because it's louder, but because it's true. So now, let me ask you again. What would your life feel like if you stopped trying to be someone? What if you didn't need to be the best at anything? What if you didn't need to be known or admired or envied? What if you simply were? Not chasing, not proving, not branding, but being? There is a peace in that, a wholeness, a return. It is the peace that children know before the world teaches them they must become something to earn love. It is the peace the sages speak of when they say that the self must die, not in violence, but in surrender. Surrender to what? To the ordinary, to the simple, to the eternal presence that has never left you but was hidden behind all your trying. You see, we spend our lives trying to be seen, to be important, to be remembered. We want to make a mark, build a legacy, be the one who made it. But what if the most peaceful human beings are not the ones who built empires, but the ones who were simply present? The ones who did not need to be remembered because they were awake while they were alive. The obsession with being special is tied deeply to the fear of death. If I don't matter, you think, then what was the point? If no one remembers me, was I really here? And so you try to cheat impermanence by becoming unforgettable. But tell me, if a tree falls in the forest and no one writes a book about it, was it any less magnificent? If a flower blooms and no one photographs it, was it any less beautiful? Of course not. And so it is with you. You are not here to impress the world. You are here to experience it, to taste it, to touch it, to feel the sacredness of this breath, this skin, this sky. You were never meant to be the best. You were meant to be alive. Now, many people confuse this message with nihilism, the belief that nothing matters, that life is empty and meaningless. But I am not saying that you don't matter. I'm saying you don't need to matter more than others in order to feel whole. There's a profound difference. Because once you stop trying to rise above, you begin to rise within. You begin to explore your own nature, not for approval, but for joy. And from that space, something beautiful happens. You become more authentic, more relaxed, more real. You stop pretending. You stop exaggerating your story, editing your past, shrinking your shame. You stop performing the character of special and begin resting in the truth of what you are, a wave in the ocean. Unique, yes, but not separate. And this changes how you relate to others. When you no longer need to prove you're special, you no longer feel threatened by the success or beauty of others. You can celebrate others without feeling small. You can admire without envy. You can listen without trying to be interesting, because you're not competing, you're connecting. This is the secret most people miss. The less you try to be special, the more love you feel. Because the barrier to love was never other people, it was your ego's need to stand apart. When you drop that, love flows effortlessly. Not as a performance, not as a strategy, but as your nature. Because underneath the mask of special is presence, and presence is always enough. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never feel the urge to stand out again. Of course you will. The ego is not evil. It's simply habitual. It wants to be safe. And it believes that being special will protect you from being forgotten, abandoned, or unseen. So don't fight the ego. Don't shame it. Just see it. When you catch yourself wanting to be the smartest in the room, the most enlightened in the group, the most admired in the mirror smile, there it is again, the urge to be special. And then, let it go. Not by force, but by turning your attention back to now, to this breath, to this moment, to the miracle of existing at all. There is no status higher than this. To be here alive, aware, connected is already the prize. You don't need more. And that, my friend, is the true freedom the ego can never offer. The freedom to belong not because you earned it, but because you never stopped belonging. The freedom to express, not to impress, but to enjoy. The freedom to love, not to be loved back, but because love is your nature. And the freedom to die, not with regret, but with peace. Because you were never here to be special. You were here to be real. And when you are real, nothing is missing. Let's look at where this trap shows up in everyday life. You start a new project, maybe a business, a piece of art, a spiritual practice, and in your heart, it begins with joy, with curiosity. But soon enough, the mind creeps in. Will this make me stand out? Will this be admired? Will I finally feel like I'm enough? And suddenly, the joy is gone. The curiosity is replaced by anxiety. You're no longer doing the thing for the thing you're doing it to be seen doing it. That's the trap. You see, anything beautiful becomes corrupted the moment it becomes a means to validate the ego. It's not that the painting changes, it's that the painter forgets why they were painting in the first place. Not for applause, not for a legacy, but for the love of creating. To move out of the trap of specialness is to rediscover why you started in the first place, why you loved, why you played, why you reached. To return to that place inside you that is untouched by comparison, untouched by fear. That is the sacred space. That is where your true life begins. Now here's something subtle but important. The ego doesn't just want to feel special in success, it also wants to feel special in suffering. Have you noticed? It says, no one has been hurt like I've been hurt. No one understands my pain. My story is uniquely tragic. And so even in sadness, we try to be exceptional. Why? Because it gives the ego a sense of identity, of importance. But suffering is not unique, it is universal. And that is not a dismissal, it is a liberation. Because the moment you realize your pain is not a defect, but a human experience, you stop hiding it, you stop protecting it, you stop identifying with it. And in that openness, healing begins. You don't have to be the most broken or the most healed. You just have to be willing. And that willingness is what brings light. When you let go of the need to be special, even in your wounds, you reconnect with something much deeper than the ego. You reconnect with the part of you that is eternal. Not the character, not the story, not the achievements or failures, but the awareness behind it all, that quiet presence, that stillness that has been with you since the beginning, watching, feeling, witnessing. It doesn't need to be famous, or praised, or liked. It only needs to be remembered. Because when you remember that part of yourself, you no longer need the world to reflect your worth. You already know it. And that's where love becomes real. That's where joy becomes effortless. That's where peace stops being a theory and becomes your natural state. Now, I know the world won't always reward this. The world celebrates noise, volume, branding, spectacle. But you are here to live quietly, deeply, honestly. You don't need the world's applause. You only need to hear your own heart. Because if you can live in alignment with your nature, even when no one notices, you will discover a richness that cannot be bought or sold. You will become untouchable, not in arrogance, but in presence, unshaken, unmoved, unbothered by the ups and downs of reputation, because you will have touched something real, and that is more rare than all the gold in the world.